8, 10 years. It's been a long journey that we have shared together. Through her practitioner training, through my ministerial training, and now Mignonne is currently with the Emerson Theological Institute since 2018. So for about the past 2 years, she has been taking a deeper dive into the New Thought philosophies and bringing them out to the world. Mignonne is, she was my diversity coach for a long time. I would say, is this appropriate to say? Is this appropriate to do? And she would say, no. But she has also worked with the CSL's National Diversity Committee and many other American River College, and the list goes on and on of her commitment to the teachings of Science of Mind, the teachings, getting those teachings out into the world and working for social justice, diversity, and just spreading the good news, I would say, of understanding and compassion. So I'm very happy to welcome her to Mountainside today. And I know that she is going to lift us up with her talk today about don't being fooled by appearances. So please give her a big welcome to Mignonne.
Hi, thank you, Reverend Ramona. And Jack, thank you so much for that song, that we're all in the same boat. You know, really one of the messages today is that we are led and guided with every breath and with every reflection, and that the information comes to us at the exact right time when we need it. And when I decided I was going to do this talk, that song was where I was at. I was in that God consciousness. We were in that unity. We were in that place. But as Ramona actually just pointed out, I've been a diversity trainer for I don't know how long. And I think I was just in that spirit of unity. But this morning, after my prayers, I checked the little internet. And one of my friends, who has no idea I'm doing this talk, has no idea that I chose that song. I posted a little something. I don't usually do this, but it seems really appropriate right now just to bring this in. And that is what he says, and you may have seen this. What he says is that I've heard that we're not all in the same boat, but it's just not like that. We're in the same storm, but not in the same boat. See, your ship could be big. Your ship could be shipwrecked and mine doesn't have to be, or vice versa. So for some in the quarantine, it's optimal. It's a moment of reflection, a moment of reconnection. It's easy flip-flops with cocktails and a coffee. And for others, it's a desperate and financial family crisis. For some of us during this quarantine living alone, it's a time where we're facing endless loneliness, while others, it's a place of peace and rest and visits with their father, their mother, their sons, their daughter. You know, some people got $600 increase here in California with their unemployment, and now they're bringing in more money than they would have if they worked. And others are working more hours for less money due to cuts or a loss in sales. Some families of 4 just received $3,400. I didn't check the math on that. And some families received 0. Some of our families were concerned about getting candy over on Easter, and some families were concerned about just getting food. Some people want to go back to work because they don't want to qualify for unemployment, and they're running out of money. But others will kill those who break the quarantine. And then some people are spending 2 to 3 hours a day helping their children online school, while others spend 2 to 3 hours a day plus 12 hours working. So some of us have experienced the nearness of death with this virus. Some people have already lost someone from it, and some people are not sure their loved ones are going to make it. And other people believe it's not a big deal. Some people, and I'm one of these people, have faith in God and expect a miracle during 2020. I absolutely do. But other people say the worst is yet to come. And so it says, so friends, we're not in the same boat. We're going through the same storm. And that's when our perceptions and our needs can be completely different. But each of us can emerge in our own way from this storm, and it's very important to see beyond what is seen at the first glance, not just looking, but actually seeing. And that's what I'm thinking, not just looking, but actually seeing, and just honoring that this is a continual learning process, and just honoring that things are shifting and changing so fast, and what was relevant yesterday sometimes is not relevant today. I mean, there's a thing like Ramona said, I hear it all the time, hashtag we're together alone. Everything seems to be an oxymoron today. Everything seems to be a bit upside down, that opposites are pushed together. Things that I couldn't imagine happening in this life, like, I don't know, being sent to my room by Mother Nature. I don't know. What I know, though, is that there's something deeper happening at this moment of pause, that this is a moment of pause, and that there is something going on beyond experiences. I also know that, like Reverend Karen said, that we can experience peace and comfort and gratitude and joy. I know that. Regardless of what boat you're in, we're in that eye of the storm, and you can have that peace, that comfort, that gratitude, and that joy. So this past month, it's forced me to stop and sit still. It's forced me to listen to the still small voice inside. And when I do that, when I stop, when I take that breath, when I do that meditation and listen to that still small voice inside, I know that I am in the world, but I am not of the world. So this talk says, don't be fooled by appearances. And what this means is, for me, what this means is that it's a good time to develop what Emma Curtis Hopkins calls righteous judgment. And that is trying to see things as God sees them. Or Eric Butterworth calls the same thing God consciousness. So in this time of shelter in place, it's giving me the gift of learning how to navigate feelings that sometimes bubble up. And those feelings are feelings of being overwhelmed, of being anxious, of being upset, and sometimes even of being fearful. So during this time, I've rediscovered, and many of you may know this, but it's something you get an opportunity to rediscover. I rediscovered Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You. And he just talks about man's experiences, and I just want to read it, so I'm going to read it to you. He talks about man's experiences. On a human level, man's contact with the world about him is through the senses, predominantly through sight. On this level, he sees good and he sees evil, and life is a precarious experience. But life is whole, even though man sees only part of it. Butterworth goes on to say, Jesus says, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. That's John 7:24. Don't let the apparent block the real. And as Butterworth is contemplating this, later in the book he says, man lives in a world of form and shape, of time and space, a world of war and peace, of harmony and chaos. And currently, at the very same time, man lives in a spiritual world as a spiritual being. And so the gist of what I want to share with you today is 3 spiritual practices. These spiritual practices the Reverend Karen is inviting you to learn in that essential class. I want to share with you 3 spiritual practices that revolve around trusting. It revolves around trusting the unity of all life. It revolves around sort of living our principle that we know that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. And we proclaim that God is personal to all that feel its indwelling presence. And so what we know is that as we go into these practices at this very, I'm going to call it particular time, these practices can support you in feeling the presence of God, in feeling the presence of God. So the first practice is what Marianne Williamson defines as a miracle. And she says that is a shift in perspective. And so I have to address what's happening all around us. This experience can support a deeper connection to the one power and the one presence. But like most metaphysicians, I want to keep my mind focused only on what I want to experience. But that's a little harder these days because I can't turn a blind eye to the world in which I live. And the thing that's keeping me inside, the thing that's keeping us inside, is an idea called coronavirus. It has brought up in me so many mixed feelings. I mean, those outside messages from the news media flowing in, Facebook, the radio, airwaves, every day, a daily body count. So when I tap into this wavelength, I experience deep sadness, I experience fear. When I tap into the frequency of race consciousness, this chatter of the world right now, it makes me even afraid to go outside for a moment. When I'm on that wavelength, it's hard to shift your perspective, but you can. You can shift your perspective. And I'll tell you how I shifted my perspective. What was the big shift in all of this when it first started? When this first started, my older cousin sent me a YouTube video called like the Great Influenza Epidemic of 1918. Now, this is a horrible video. I'm not recommending this video, but I couldn't help watching it. I mean, it was like watching a train wreck. It was hard to turn away, and I watched it to the very bitter end. But when it was over, my fear dissipated because this video showed me, it showed me that humanity, that governments, that people, that we know what to do. Because this isn't the first time we've experienced an epidemic. It isn't the first time we've experienced a pandemic. As a matter of fact, the founder of religious science and his brother, Ernest and Fenwick, I'm a big Fenwick fan, Ernest and Fenwick Holmes lived through the 1918 flu epidemic. Now, how did they live through? So Fenwick, I teach roots, I love history. That's Ramona's fault. That is Ernest Holmes' His Life and Times by Fenwick. Fenwick says, this is the way Fenwick and Ernest dealt with the great flu epidemic. He says, in the fall of 1918, which took hundreds of lives in California, schools, theaters, churches were closed, and people went about the streets with white gauze masks, attempting to shut out the germs of the virus and escape contagion. Workers fell ill at their desks in the business places of the city, or returned home to their homes and hospitals and were seen no more. We, Ernest and Fenwick, went about our business as usual, and we treated as many people who we could as they telephoned and came into their sanctuary. So Ernest and Fenwick sort of went through life affirming what they believed, and that was Ernest and Fenwick's way. And the thing I want to stress is Ernest and Fenwick lived through the epidemic. What gives me peace and comfort is that we know what to do to live through this time period, because humanity has gone through this lesson. This is, for me, a mental equivalent. It's not how we usually think of mental equivalents, but we have a mental equivalent of how to survive. And San Francisco was a city that really showed us how to survive this, because they started early in 1918. They shut everything down, and they knew what to do to preserve life. Now, I'm not sure what this video was supposed to provoke when my cousin gave it to me, but for me, I got a deep sense of peace, and I began to shift my perspective. And so now what I look for is I listen to, but I look for how many people have survived today. I focus on who's recovering and how they're recovering. I've shifted my focus to praying that we find a cure soon, that we find that way. I focused on now shifting that perspective to deepening relationships with family and friends. I've shifted this perspective, and I'm using this time to go within, and I'm trying to build my spiritual muscles through spiritual practice. And one of those is looking for the good in this circumstance. So by shifting this, my emotions don't have to be tossed and tumbled by the circumstances. All I have to do is shift that perspective, change the focus. Eric Butterworth, he's just deep on my mind these days. When you build a consciousness of love and justice and friendliness and peace, you no longer have to look or identify with any enemy or any opposition or any injustice in others. Eric Butterworth says, if you build that consciousness of love and peace and justice and friendliness, that you walk in a circle of protection. So for me, I'm taking a few hours out of each day trying to disconnect from those airways of the world, trying to bring into myself that quiet mind. I'm not listening to the press conferences, the governor's press, anybody. I'm walking away a little bit from some of those work calls, which are continual. And then there are these family crises that are not really crises. I'm disconnecting and I'm going within. And I'm inviting you during this time to deepen your practice. If you're not already doing it, to deepen your practice in doing this. So it's in that place of the space within that sacred place, that is when I am in the world, but not of the world. I love Ernest Holmes because in Creative Mind, he says that we have within us a power that is greater than anything that we shall contact in the outer, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace. So right now, collectively, we can work on building that consciousness of love and peace. We can work into tapping into the power within. And one way to do that is to shift your perspective. Another way to build that deeper connection with the one presence in the power is to focus on the breath, to take a pause. I mean, when things feel really overwhelming or when things are spinning out of control, take a breath. Now, this is the lesson that I thought I learned. I thought I learned this before. And to take a pause, like to not believe everything you see. And I'm not talking about magic here. I'm talking about an experience I had with online banking, okay? But let's just say I keep reliving this lesson. And they say you relive them until you learn it. So for me personally, I've been working on debt. And I've been putting the money where you need to put money to reduce debt in my financial affairs. Well, last week I checked my bank account and the balances were just not what I thought they should be. I just couldn't believe it. I looked at the computer in astonishment. I thought, well, this can't be true. But then I made up stories. Okay, wait, this can be true. Wait a minute. Okay, maybe somebody stole my identity. Maybe I left my credit card. I mean, I got a tizzy. I kept making up all these stories. I called the bank and I was in a state of complete and total panic. And I'm like, I've got to fix this. I'm moving. I'm like, I got to fix this. But I'm on hold. And I'm on hold. And I'm on hold. And I'm on hold so long that I just stopped. I stopped. I hung up. And I checked my balances again. And everything was exactly the way I thought it should be. But man, that appearance of lack, that triggered a frantic and rampant emotions in me because I believed what I thought. Emerson says that the ancestor of every action is thought. And I'm going to posit you that before the act and before the thought is the belief in the thought. You believe in those appearances. You have that thought and then you act. But when you take a pause, when you have that pause, then the truth of the situation can be seen. And as I was sitting on hold, waiting for somebody to pick up that telephone, that to me was like taking a really long breath. That was the equivalent of a really long pause that allowed things to reset. And it reassured me again. It taught me one more time that you can't believe everything that you see. You know, in both my darkest hours and also in the times where like I'm sitting on top of a mountaintop or experiencing something really beautiful, those are the times of awe and wonder. Those are the times that I'm sort of really taking a pause. Those are the times when I practice the presence. And those are the times I'm inviting you to do just a little bit more. I'm gonna just go real quickly back to this one over here into Creative Mind. So Eric Butterworth, his Discovering Divine Within and Creative Mind have been constant companions for me. And one of my favorite verses is, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Take the pause. So in Creative Mind, Ernest Holmes says taking this pause is the highest attitude of the mind. The highest attitude of the mind from which all else springs is one of perfect calm and absolute trust in the spirit. The one who can with perfect confidence look into the future and with perfect ease of mind rest in the present, and who never looks backward, but who has learned to be still in his own soul and wait upon the spirit. He is the one who will most completely demonstrate the supremacy of spiritual thought over so-called material resistance. Be still and know that I am God. So the first one is a shift in your perspective, and how that happens, maybe it happens through this mental equivalent. The second spiritual practice I'm going to ask you to do is just take that pause. But the third one is another shift in perspective, but it's shifting not for a mental equivalent. It's shifting by looking for the good in every situation, looking like through the eyes like God looks. So I have the biggest respect. Matter of fact, I think if I had ever met her, I would be really frightened for people of the past. And Emma Curtis Hopkins is one of those people. And she's just in being. This woman was so convicted in her faith and in her understanding. She says, so she, in her statement of being, and she instructs us on how to look for the good. So she says, the good I am seeking is my God. My God is my life. The good I am seeking is my health. God is my health. The good I am seeking is my strength. God is my strength. The good I am seeking is my support. God is my support. The good I am seeking is my defense. God is my defense. Life is God. Truth is God. Love is God. Substance is God. God is intelligence. Omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. God is truth, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. God is love, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. God is spirit, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. God is all knowing, everywhere present, and all powerful. So it's easy to be deceived by the appearances in life, especially if we don't look for God in whatever situation that we're in, be it good or be it bad, it is good. It's whatever we're judging. So there's that righteous judgment. Our judgment is whether good or bad, evil or whatever, because we don't have that long-term picture. So we look for the good in every situation. I know that whether that's been a celebration, a loss, a transition, God is everywhere. And as I seek God, the appearances dissolve, the truth is revealed. I think that we can make a decision to look for the good in every circumstance. It's a spiritual muscle it's hard to grow. And it's hard to accept that there's good in every circumstance, because there have been times that I've gone through something that was bad, like, being rejected from a relationship, not getting a job, having to have a surgery. But later, 2020 hindsight, I realized that it was for my highest and best good. And I truly believe that God is always working for our highest and best good. We just have to look beyond the material, into beyond the physical world, and through a spiritual lens, just to see how we are divinely guided. It's not always easy, I think, to shift our perspective, to look for a mental equivalent, to take a breath, to linger in a pause before we take an action, to decide to look for that good in every situation. But that's how we go beyond appearances. That's how we get through the storm. That's how we steady the boat. That's how we're not tossed and turned by the circumstances. God is our source, and we are guided by an inner voice, and we have the power to tap in to that divine guidance. Now, just one final quote. Florence Scovel Shinn says that prayer is our way of telephoning good. But I say sitting in the quiet, listening, that is God's way of telephoning us. Because God is forever working for our highest and our best in our lives. And when we practice spiritual practices, when we shift our perspective by finding a mental equivalent, when we take a pause, or when we look for the good in a situation, then we absolutely strengthen our relationship with the divine. We strengthen it. It's already there. So I think that I would just like to take this message into prayer, if you all don't mind with me. So just knowing that there is one infinite divine intelligence that is in and around and through everything, that this intelligence is beyond time and beyond space, and that this intelligence and this knowledge and this thing that I call love, that I call good, that I call God, that this is all that I am. I am not all that it is, but it is all that I am. And it is all that each and every person that is on this Zoom room is. Each and every person is that good and love and joy and peace. And I just know, I speak my word that this divine energy is working in and through each and every one of us as we stop and take a pause, as we develop mental equivalence, as we look for the good, as we seek it. It is already there, just coming into the beginnings of our awareness. I just know that God is working in and around and through. God is calming the storm. God is steadying the boat. God is performing miracles right here and right now. And I'm so grateful and thankful for the miracle of this community. I'm so grateful and thankful for the miracle that is this Zoom room. I am so grateful and thankful for the miracle of this pause in life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I release this word into the law. And together we say, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Mignonne, for that reminder to look with our hearts and not our minds all the time. So thank you for that. Let's take a deep breath, just drawing this message in, allowing the pause of our life to be a time of celebration. So thank you. It's time now for our time of circulation to practice another spiritual principle, which is that practice of circulation. So I invite you now to take your virtual offering and place your hands over your heart. We do a virtual offering in this Zoom room, but there are many ways to continue to participate. You can send a check, and I believe that either Karen or Betty will get that up onto the chat here in just a moment. And there is also PayPal as a way to send your offering, knowing that in this law of circulation, that love and money are all energy, and that we can circulate both through our own community and out into the world. I invite you to join me in the offering. So with your hands over your heart, I am grateful. Grateful for this day and for the love that we share, the life that we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. I give with gratitude and I give with love. I circulate my life and my gift to bless the world, and I am open to receive the gifts of giving. And so it is. And I believe Celise has a song for us again. Celisa?
Here we go. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. I am grateful for this day, for the love we share, the life we make, and I give thanks for all the many ways that the love of God appears. That the love of God appears.
And so I just bless this offering, this virtual offering of love and of life and of money, knowing that it brings a great blessing to our center, to our community, and out into our world. And it comes back to each of us to prosper for each and every one of us. And so it is. And now it's time, I believe, to circle up into our horseshoe, our virtual horseshoe, and sing our closing song of peace. Now there is peace on earth.
Mary's getting a phone call.
There is peace on earth. I know it